You know, I remember my first 4 followers and being like, oh my God, I have 4 friends. I was so excited. And that's where the mindset just kind of came in of like, it felt like I just had this fun at the time community of me and these 4 other readers. And my content just genuinely was for these 4 people, you know, it was for like the 4 people and then the 6 people and the 10 and then the 12.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Carrington-Russell, an Amazon Top 25 best-selling author known for writing kick-butt heroines and delicious men in dark romantic worlds. And if you're new to the channel, then welcome to Book Talk. Here, we're focused on interviewing fellow authors and professionals within the publishing industry to give us insight, resources, and inspiration. And today I have a very special guest for you today. I thought we could focus a little bit on social media, marketing, and personal branding. And there is no better person than to bring Miranda on, who is the face of Probably Off Reading. If you're not familiar with her, she's on TikTok, she's on Instagram, and has a collective 875,000 followers. So I think she kind of knows what she's talking about. So we're going to focus on all those good things, and hopefully we can give you some insight into the book talk world as well. Welcome on, Miranda. How are you?
Doing so well, and I'm so excited to be here too.
I'm so excited to have you on because I've worked with you in the past. You know, we've collaborated and you've always been so fun to work with. And I'm kind of addicted to your page. I'm not going to lie. I'm scrolling through your stuff all the time, seeing what you recommend. But also, behind all that fun energy, it must have been a lot of hard work to build those platforms as well. So I want you to take me to the start as to why and how you started creating these platforms and how the snowball effect happened for you.
Oh man, we have to go back a long, long ways. No, I'm joking.
Take us on the journey.
So it's a long journey, but we made it. No, so it kind of just happened. I don't want to say overnight, but it happened without like when I first started posting, my videos were cringe. Like my videos were cringe. I was just posting to have fun. Like truly, I was posting to have fun. I picked back up reading because I didn't have a hobby as an adult, you know. I just worked a lot and then it was TV in the evenings. And I got to a point where we don't have cable and there was just nothing left to watch. I had nothing left to watch and I was so bored and I kept looking at my husband being like, I am so bored. Like I am so bored. And he was like, it was in the middle of winter and he was like, "Well, what are some things you used to enjoy doing as like a kid? Like maybe you could reignite your love for some of those things." And I was like, "You know what? I really loved fishing. I loved fishing as a kid." And he was like, "Well, I don't think you want to go ice fishing in the middle of winter. So what's something else you enjoyed?" And I was like, "You know what? I really loved reading." And then just coincidentally, that same week, I had therapy and I was talking to my therapist about how bored I was, you know? And my therapist again was like, "You really need like something like a hobby. You need an adult hobby." And it was just so funny that like both my husband and therapist the same week were talking about finding a hobby as an adult. And that's when I told my therapist, I was like, "You know what? I literally was just talking to my husband about this. I should try reading." And I think my little phone FBI agent must have been listening to all my conversations as well because it was like right after that, I think I started seeing some of my first ever like TikTok book related videos. And it wasn't necessarily, I don't think they were from other like book talk influencers at the time, but mainly from authors. And I saw one and I don't even remember what the first book was that I picked up, but I remember I picked up a book. I got Kindle Unlimited, which was like such a hard call at the time to make because I think it was like 12.99 a month. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it and just see if I enjoy it. If I don't like the first month, I can cancel, you know? So I remember I got Kindle Unlimited and I was addicted. Like I was waking up early so I could read before work. The second I was off work, I was like rushing to make dinner, do chores, you know, and then I was just done for the evening. I was reading all night long. I remember reading so late some nights, like my husband's alarm would go off in the morning. And so, long story short, because I know I'm bunny trailing here again, but my therapy appointments started turning into sessions where I was talking about all these fun books I'm reading. And reading was healing me in so many ways. Like, that's a whole different conversation, but like, it was coming up in therapy because I found reading to be so healing in just so many different ways. And it was my therapist who was like, you should start talking about books. Like, why don't you? And he didn't even have a specific platform, but TikTok was the only platform I did not have any like mutual followers on. I wasn't friends with any of my friends on there, any of my family on there. And so it felt like this like little safe place for me to go and just talk about the books I loved. And I remember at the time I started talking about books. I did not own a physical book. Like, I did not own a single physical book. All of my reads were on Kindle Unlimited. And I remember gaining like my first like 4 followers, like kid you not. I remember my first 4 followers and being like, oh my God, I have 4 friends. I was so excited. And that's where the mindset just kind of came in of like, it felt like I just had this fun at the time community of me and these 4 other readers. And my content just genuinely was for these 4 people, it was for like the 4 people and then the 6 people and the 10 and then the 12. And um I think I would start to say that the time I noticed my platform starting to take off was more around Fourth Wing. I was one of the first people that posted finding, like, I saw Fourth Wing had beautiful special editions out. And so I told my husband, I was like, let's go find the special edition Fourth Wing copy at Target. I was like determined to go find it.
I ran to Target today after seeing this book on TikTok. I had to have it when I saw that it has dragons on the edges of it. Absolutely beautiful. It also has a map on the inside. It's just overall beautiful. Cannot wait to binge read it tonight.
And so I made a video finding it in Target, and that's kind of when my account started gaining a lot more followers. And then I was talking about Fourth Wing, gaining a lot more followers. And so that was kind of more my spike into the like hitting the tens of thousands of followers and just gaining like, I remember gaining like 30,000 followers overnight. And then the next night it was 40,000 followers. And there were like bumps in the road too. I don't know if I'm like totally going off stream, but I off of the topic. But I remember there just being bumps that I dealt with in therapy, like talking about dark romance and getting a lot of hate and backlash at that. Like, I remember dealing with like my very first actual like harassment issue where like blocking someone and they'd come back with 2 more accounts within 10 seconds and needing to block them again. And dealing with like the scary reality of like some of the messages you get are, I remember with that particular person, every message they sent me were, they were going to send people to R-word me, and they hoped that me and family members would get deleted off the earth. And like, it was scary messages. And I remember that was kind of like my first little taste of what having a larger platform is like. And at the time, I remember talking with my husband about it too, because I actually never wanted to be an influencer, never had any goals, never had any dreams of being an influencer. That was never an aspiration in life as whatsoever. I was raised like really conservative, like on a farm. I was homeschooled, never really interacted with anyone else my entire life. So like, I think a lot of my friends that I have now, like, they will say all the time that when they were growing up they wanted to be a YouTuber and stuff like that. I never had those dreams. Like, growing up, I thought, I was gonna marry a Christian man and be popping out kids and baking bread for the rest of my life. Um, and that's not where life took me, but that's what I kind of grew up thinking. Um, and so yeah, anyway, I never really wanted to go the influencer route. And so funny enough, when my platforms actually started becoming more than just these like 4 people that had originally followed me, I did have all the way up until I think 200,000 followers. I remember, yeah, 200,000 followers. I remember thinking I would actually close my social medias down because as much fun as it was, it's so time consuming. Like it was so time consuming. And I've never had my platforms monetized. Like the only platform I have monetized is on Facebook, and I just started that last year. But yeah, it was extremely time consuming. I wasn't making any money out of it, but I kept going. And I remember the reason for not shutting it down was because I just felt like it was like a community. Like I had friends, I had followers who I recognized. Like even now, I just was it last night? My days have blurred because I'm just getting out of a 48-hour readathon. So my time frame's a little off. But I think was it Sunday morning? During my 48-hour readathon, Sunday morning, I hit 1 million followers across all platforms. And I remember I just was thinking, like, I forget when this was. When was Sunday morning? Like a couple hours ago or something. I remember thinking to myself, like, it's crazy because, you would think even having, that many followers and that big of a platform, like, I still feel like I have a small, tight-knit community, Like, I know a lot of creators, I know so many amazing authors. And then, for lack of a better word, followers, but I also consider a lot of my followers friends too. So anyway, I remember just hitting like 200-ish thousand followers, and there was so much hate going on. Book Talk was always under fire. Like Book Talk was always under fire around that time. And it was so much heat on Book Talk. So much drama was going on Book Talk, and I just remember feeling like really depleted and really down about it all, and being like, kind of went from like these 4 followers to a lot of followers, but that comes with like a lot of ugliness in the backside too that I don't think a lot of creators talk about. um and I remember just at that time thinking like, well, maybe it's better to just kind of like shut it all down and maybe just start over. Like I remember thinking like maybe I start another account and just go back to posting to 10 friends again. But I kind of like buckled down and worked through a lot of it in therapy. Like, okay, well, if DMs are triggering, don't check DMs. Like, if it's going to ruin me for three, like, I'm a very empathetic person. So, like, if I open my DMs and someone was like saying something really diabolical in there, like, it could really like knock me down emotionally for 3 days. Um, and yeah, so I don't know. I guess for me personally, like being an influencer content creator was never something I was striving for in life. It was never why I started my platform. And I kept my platform because I started it to have book friends, to have the community. And I decided to keep pushing with it because, kind of like, what I dealt with, talked about a lot in therapy is that the good does outweigh the bad. For every bad comment you get, there's 20,000 good comments. And those friendships that I've made, the connections I've made just meant so much more to me than all of the hate and all the ugliness that can also go on at the same time. But yeah, I do just remember like in the early days of content creation and my platforms getting larger and everything, kind of being like, well, okay, do I want to not necessarily make this a career, but do I just want to keep riding it out to see how far it can go? Or do I want to shut it all down and just go back to reading books on Kindle Unlimited quietly by myself? And then I was like, well, that sounds very lonely. So let's not do that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
There are so many things that I want to talk about from this. First of all, thank you for being vulnerable with us and explaining that, because I think the hate and the hurt is something that isn't often spoken about, and it really does need to be, because there's some kind of mental preparation that almost needs to be in place. However, it will never actually prepare you to that kind of attentional focus. I've had a similar situation, different, but similar. And it knocks you. It really knocks you. We aren't made of leather, unfortunately. We don't have thick skin, but you have to weigh up the good and the bad. And congratulations on hitting 1 million followers. Like that's insane. But I feel like it also shows the good message in this is you have always looked at it as friends and as a community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
perhaps for those who are listening as well, if they're just starting off or if they're not sure how they should expand it, is coming back to the basics and reminding yourself what can I offer them? What I'm having a conversation with my friends, or, I think a lot of people, unfortunately, in the day and age that we are in, I sound so old as I say this, but like everyone's focused on the numbers and everyone's focused on the stats. And
Mhm.
although, yes, you're
Yeah.
growing a platform and there's merit in it for authors, it's obviously book
Mhm.
sales, etc., or, being
Yeah.
discoverable. They also want to get to know you. They want to be your friend. They want to be on the
Mhm.
journey. And this is something I pride myself for personally, as well as like anyone who's like reading my books, you're on the journey now. You're on the journey to see how far and how crazy all of these books can get. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
And that's important. Like, that community is so, so important. I do want to
Mhm.
talk about burnout and content creation because, again,
Yeah.
I don't think it's discussed enough because it is exhausting filming or having ideas. Sometimes I imagine you probably go through stages where you don't want to record yourself doing anything. You just want to be, quiet and isolated and have time for yourself. So, what were some of the conversations that you really had to have to find a healthy balance of content creation so that you wouldn't resent the platform?
No, definitely a good question. And it's one that I get asked a lot by content creators or even authors, because a lot of authors now, have social media where they also have to post and be bringing in new readers and stuff like that as well. So it's a question I get asked a lot, especially if I'm brave enough to ever open up my DMs, is content creation burnout, because it is very, very real.
Yeah.
Content creation burnout can be very real. And for me, making it fun. Like I know this like sounds so basic, but like keeping it fun. So I try my hardest, which I'm not always the best at, but I do try very hard to take off the weekends. Like, even if that means I am working more than I'm sleeping Monday to Friday, I try to put as much into Monday to Friday, because if I have found personally that if I give myself 2 days to decompress, I am so much more refreshed that following week to knock out everything I need to knock out. And then through my content creation journey, other things that I've just found to really help avoid content creation burnout is figuring out something consistent that works for you with posting. So like for me, I used to post like 5 or 6 times a day, and that was not manageable for me long term. And so I've now moved to I aim for twice a day, but sometimes I only post once a day, but my goal is always twice a day. So I would say for me, consistency looks like posting anywhere between 1 to 2 times a day, Monday to Friday. But then there's catches with that. You have to listen to the algorithm. Like sometimes you might post something on Wednesday and you notice the algorithm's not doing so well, so you might delete, edit it, and then maybe you post that video on Saturday instead. So Wednesday, you're not posting the video with the intentions of posting it over the weekend. So I do think there's ebbs and flows to this, but for me, something that does help is having like a general schedule that I do try to stick by. And it does change, of course, but it helps me to stay on track. And then for content creation burnout, one thing I've found is like bulk filming on 1 to 2 days. So I will bulk film on days where I feel extremely talkative, and like I wake up with like okay, I'm ready to go, yap about books for, 18 straight hours. And one thing that helps me prepare for my bulk content filming days is I always have a handy dandy notebook. You will not find me far from this notebook. This is my third notebook I've gone through in the past like year. But I have wherever I go, my notebook is in my hand. If my phone's in this hand, my notebook is in this hand. And like if something comes to me, I will be writing it down in my notebook so I can refer back to it. But before bulk filming, I always sit down and write out my hooks. And then sometimes I will like write out a hook, and then underneath of it, I'll put like a paragraph of maybe something I want to say in the intro video. Something else that I think for content creators in general, like I think maybe lifestyle creators can get away with it a smidge bit more, but I think for me, something that's helped me remain more consistent in the algorithm and has created something more sustainable for me is sticking to the same hooks and ideas that I have come up with, because I think the algorithm enjoys consistency. It's kind of like the get ready with me videos that a lot of content creator like lifestyle creators will do, like a get ready with me video. It's the same hook. They'll always talk about something different. Their makeup routine might always be a little different, but the get ready with me portion for blank 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 is always the same. And so and I tell this to other creators too that sometimes ask like, okay, well, how do you come up with stuff? Like, how do you always use trends, or like, what works for you? And I think something that I've really realized in my content creation journey is like, you do want to stand out from other content creators. If you are always using trends or copying other people's video ideas or copying other people's hooks or using very generic hooks, you might not stand out from other creators. And so something I've tried to do on my page is come up with hooks that are more distinct to me and then just reusing them. So like I'll do like 2 to 3 videos every single month with a he's a 10 but, and I'll use that hook, but I'll always mix up the books in that video. Or I'll use another hook and then change up the intro slightly and talk about different books in that video. So I think that's one thing that's helped me is occasionally I'll introduce like new hooks and stuff, but remaining pretty consistent in the hooks and intros I decide to use. But yeah, for content creation burnout, I've really, really, really just found that bulk filming at least 1 to 2 weeks worth of content, which looks anywhere between bulk filming 5 to 10 videos, helps me to not have a burnout, because that means I know that I could technically take off 2 weeks if needed from filming. And that helps me give myself time to feel refreshed, to come back into another video and be upbeat and very talkative and be able to yap a lot. Normally, I'm filming every single week. So I'll do a bulk filming day, because another thing I will find is that when I bulk film, I'll create 10 videos, but maybe only 8 are usable. I just had a funny like oopsie in a video I posted sometime last week. And I think I said something like, instead of her dating her ex-boyfriend's older brother, she was dating her ex-brother's older boyfriend or something like that. And I was like, you know what? Instead of like not using this video, I'll just change it up a little bit. But that does happen, like sometimes like I totally think I get everything right in a video and then I watch it back and I'm like, what am I even saying? And so that video is not usable. But yeah, so in order to not burn out, I would that's always my advice, is to bulk film content and create a posting schedule that's very consistent. Like I usually will always post like 1 p.m. Monday to Friday, unless something's come up in my schedule or unless I feel like the algorithm's acting a little weird, I'll tweak it a little bit. Um but yeah, that's something I found for myself and just other creators who I know and I'm friends with and stuff. I would say they all bulk film as well. I think most of us bulk film our content, and then you will occasionally see like some some random videos throughout the week that I'll film in the moment. Like my 48-hour readathon, I didn't film that 2 weeks ago. I filmed that over the weekend in the moment type thing. But yeah, I would say that's helped me to remain a little bit more consistent and avoid creator burnout.
So being sensitive to, let's say specifically right now, TikTok algorithms and trends, because you have currently, as we're recording this, 592.5 thousand followers on TikTok. Look at me, well researched. And there have been so many changes over those last few years. And I think this is what trips a lot of those up who are starting to notice momentum, and then suddenly, their views plummet and they become very disheartened in that. And I would love to know if you have any advice when it comes to better understanding what the algorithm is doing. Are there particular places that you go for that, or you just notice it in your post itself? And kind of gathering an understanding of perhaps what your viewership actually wants from you as well.
The algorithm will show followers. So I'm struggling to come up with the correct words, but Okay, I will relate this to another content creator who I follow. I follow a lifestyle content creator, and every time she's on my For You page, it's once a week, and she's always cooking like a Sunday dinner. And it's the only video I ever see from her is cooking videos. I was curious and clicked on her page the other day, and she posts 10 videos a day, and she's a lifestyle creator. She'll do, clothing hauls and like all these other things, but the only thing that comes up on my For You page is her cooking video. And it's because that style video is the style video I followed her for. And so I have 100% noticed a trend, and like other content creators, I would say would agree with me on this too, is that if you have a video go viral, right? I'll use myself, like he's a 10 butt video go viral, and I gain 20,000 followers from that. The chances of the algorithm showing my next he's a 10 butt video to those same 20,000 followers is a lot higher.
Yeah.
So it's another reason I always encourage creators to, you should almost be your own brand. Like you should have your own something that people relate you to. Like if my followers tag me in something, they're tagging me in like unhinged videos or like, dark romance stuff. And so like I would say that my followers definitely associate me with more like being like an unhinged, chaotic book recommender. Like I don't think anyone would ever refer to me as like a comfort book talk creator or something like that. Like I don't have this like calm, chill, comfort vibe. And I'm okay with that because I'm like a more chaotic person anyway. So I think it is important, like, and probably even for authors, like if you're posting a specific video style and you notice that you've gained a lot of followers from that, you might notice that, if you post that same video the following week, that video might also perform better on your page. And it's, again, I know I just said this, but it's why I always use like the same 30 hooks. Like I have like the same 30 hooks down, and you will almost never see me stray from that. Like it's very rare, and I almost never participate in trends. Like for me, I've just found that my page normally, I don't know, like I think trends can sometimes hurt your page more than not hurt your page in a sense. I think as a creator, because again, if you gain a lot of followers from like a video style you're never going to redo on your page, those followers almost become dead to your page. Like there's almost no point in having them except for them to be a number. And I think as a creator who's trying to build a community, like that's not what I'm going for. Like I don't want 20,000 people just to boost my number. I would rather have 1,000 people that are actually I'm going to see in my comment sections and get to reply to, or they're going to message me and I get to engage with. So I think like because that's my goal, participating in trends just to get a high view video is not on like my radar all the time. And just also figuring out what works good for my page and what I think the algorithm wants to see from me.
It's so funny because you feel you're saying you're going on a bunny trail, but there are so many key nuggets in this as well. And with the pace as well that you speak about it, because you really have an understanding of it. But I think this is also because you have an understanding of yourself and the platform and community that you've grown as well.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of those who are starting to build their platform, it's very scary to put yourself in front of a video because we all feel like twats. Like we all feel like, oh my gosh, everyone's going to realize how weird I am. And I don't actually think many people let their, I'm going to say freak fly, but it's not even that, just your authentic self show up. And I
Yeah.
think as soon as you break through and you allow that to start, like you're quirky, you're fun, you're chaotic, like that's your brand because that's who you are. And that's what
Yeah.
people resonate with because they see a little bit of themselves in you. And I think that's really important for people to sort of overcome and have their own style in it. So I want to talk about with this expansion, there have been some incredible opportunities for you, I'm sure, when it comes to collaborations and such, which we can talk about soon. But I want to know what have kind of been the highlights of your influencer journey so far. And I think we've already touched on it, but perhaps your biggest obstacles. But what are some of the strange opportunities that you've been given that you're like, I really wasn't expecting that, but I'm so glad that I could do that?
Yes. So I would say one of the more recent developments I'll say is probably my book club at my local Barnes and Noble. And that came about in a really funny way because I filmed a video at my local Barnes and Noble that went viral. And one of the employees commented on that video and she said, oh, I know where you're at. I recognize that book wall behind you. And I commented back and I was like, oh my gosh, you work at Barnes and Noble? And she was like, yes, we do. And so anyway, we ended up setting up a time to meet and I ended up creating a book club at that Barnes and Noble. And we're now discussing a second book club because we have so many people who would like to join the book club, but we don't have enough chairs for everyone. And then also there's, you've got to keep it small enough so it doesn't feel like a lecture, like everyone can engage. So we are considering, I believe next month we'll be doing a second book club, two book clubs back to back. Having like a romance, dark romance book club and then a fantasy romance book club. But I would say that's probably one of my most favorite things that have come out of it. And like I know it's gonna sound so corny and cheesy and everything. Like, yes, going to a red carpet, like I'll say, like going to Outlander and doing the red carpet was super fun, right? I never thought in a million years I would be doing that. Absolutely had fun. But I would say that, like, again, I think because the intentions of my page were more to find friends and community, like my Barnes and Noble book club will probably be one of my most favorite things. Like, I don't think something will top that because it is just so fun to sit down once a month and talk with other readers. And we laugh so hard, like it just, you can tell everyone's having such a good time. And I think that's really fun. So there are definitely things like book talk, like again, the red carpet or um things like that are like would never in my entire life think that would be something I would be going to. But at the same time, I would say like the thing I'm most proud of and just genuinely thought I would never be doing either was like, hosting a book club at Barnes and Noble and have just met so many amazing people from that too. So I have to say that that's probably one of my favorites for sure.
What I love about this is where you started. Your mind frame is still there in a good way. Like you became a voracious reader again. It gave you that place to go to. And now that you've created such an atmosphere, obviously on your platforms, but now it's like in person that you're creating that same community again and getting
Yeah.
excited with them. Of course that's rewarding. Like that's amazing. And it's so nice to see that you've kept that genuinity as well, because I think so many people can get lost again in the numbers game. Like I need more followers, or it can turn into something perhaps toxic even, I want to say, because I may be being extreme here, but I feel like it can also take over your life to some degree as well if you're just like, I just need to keep building, building, building. But you've kind of kept at the core and you know why you want to do this. I would love to know if there's any basic tricks or tips that you would have for those who are watching that they may not know that the TikTok app provides, or you're like, oh, this might change it slightly, or you could tweak this and you might get better views. Do you have anything like that?
I would definitely say knowing different platforms. So like TikTok, you actually don't need to have like the world's best lighting on TikTok, and TikTok does not necessarily care about quality always. Instagram does. I've definitely noticed that like Instagram prefers, I think because Instagram is known for a little bit more of being more aesthetic, I do think that Instagram algorithm does favor a little bit more of like aesthetic videos. But I would always suggest just point blank period, because if I, post something on TikTok, it's going to Instagram, which is syndicated to Facebook, and then I'm posting it to YouTube Shorts. So that one video I create is going on 4 platforms. And so making that one video the very best so it will hopefully perform well on all 4 platforms. And so I would definitely say camera quality, if you don't want to invest in like an actual like camera, um using your back camera, making sure it's clean, wipe it off before you before you use it. Personally, I invested, not sponsored, but like there are phone cases you can get that have like these little flappy things. I don't even know, but it like protects the camera. And so as a creator, that has been very useful because then you don't always have to clean it, you know? So not sponsored, but definitely handy. It's the little things in life. But yeah, so like good quality, um, good lighting, and I would say natural lighting. Like if you can film in front of a video with natural lighting, like do it. Do it. I always would suggest natural lighting over artificial light any day. And yeah, just I think just remaining consistent. Like I genuinely can't stress enough that like being consistent, and also even if you feel like you're in a 200 view jail, a 300 view jail, like I tell people all the time that I don't think anyone ever just blows up overnight. Like if you're posting because you want to be an influencer and so you're frustrated if you're stuck in a 200, 300 view jail, I think the trick is to just keep pushing. But at the same time, like I always can't speak from that because it's my experience with my platforms was I was not posting to be an influencer. Like I think my content was so aimed at just trying to be like, I was so cringy, but you know, at the time it was so cringy, but just posting for fun, like posting for fun and posting for like those first four like friends I had made in the book space, you know? Um, and I think that does resonate. Like I do think you can tell when maybe someone is posting with the intentions of trying to blow up or trying to be an influencer versus someone who's posting because they just want to have some friends, you know? Like I think intentions can sometimes come through in videos. And so I always encourage that, like, listen, even if you have 200 views, that's 200, that's a lot of people. Like, you would never, you know, 200 people fills a wedding, you know, you don't invite 200 people over to a party. 200 is still a lot. If you get 20 likes on a video, that is 20 people. Like, that is a lot of people. And I think, like, all of us start somewhere. Like all of us start with four followers, you know. All of us had 100 followers at some point, and it's a slow, steady climb. But I do think people, you will just find your followers, find your friends as you post more and go along. And when it comes to different algorithms on different platforms, again, I do think that you can tweak content to go well on across all platforms. Like I do think all platforms care about quality to a degree. I think all platforms push videos that have good hooks and a good retention rate, you know. I think another thing that can help too in some videos is having a hook and then doing a rehook. So like your first 3 seconds should be some type of a hook, and then maybe like right before you, like for me, if I'm doing a book stack, you know, I'll have my hook and then I talk for like 10-15 seconds, and somewhere within that you do a rehook right before you go into the rest of the books, you know. And so I think that can also help with like retention rate across platforms. But besides that, I know it is so basic, but it's basic and it's so true. And I think it's the thing that a lot of creators say the most is just being consistent and showing up. Um, and I think too, just tweaking content enough to make it unique, but keeping it similar enough so that the algorithm will push it out to like the people you want it to be pushed to. Because again, I do think if you're doing get ready with me videos, that video is always going to go to the same group of people. The video of them cooking later on at night might go to a whole different set of people, you know? So like if I'm posting a fantasy romance book stack, that's going to be pushed out to fantasy romance readers. It's not getting pushed out to dark romance readers, you know? And I'll notice that, like you will notice with your like even though, you know, with larger platforms, like I still notice, you know, the ones who comment. So like I'll notice that my fantasy romance readers will always comment on my fantasy romance videos, and then my dark romance girlies will always comment on my dark romance videos. And then if I do some like mix match, you know, he's a 10 butt where I'm mixing all of them up, I'll have just the people who comment on every video comment on something like that. So I do think that the algorithm is really specific and good in pushing out different content if you are doing like two or three types. And I think you can be in the book niche. So I think book talk can be a niche, bookstagram can be a niche, but then I think within that, the algorithm recognizes like subcategories almost
Yeah,
too.
that's amazing. I want to talk about collaboration. So it's only within the last year that you've actually started doing paid collaborations, and like that's amazing. It's incredible that you were able to turn something that was just giving you a hobby and a place to be, and then also get an income to financially support that
Yeah.
craziness, that beautiful collection behind you, which I appreciate so much. And so I was kind of curious to as to where your mindset was when you were looking at, okay, maybe this is something I can charge for. And what would that look like? Because it's so hard for us to figure out where we think our value is or where we think even our worth is sometimes, especially when you're going into a service. So, what were some of the conversations that you had with yourself to feel really good and excited to push that out?
I would say the biggest reason I did not, like, I didn't monetize off my platform, like I don't have monetization turned on my platforms except for Facebook, which Facebook like doesn't exist in my world. But anyway, it's like one of those things. I actually kind of funny sidetrack story on that too. Like I started my Facebook account to get rid of fake Facebook accounts because last year you had to have a Facebook account with like the same videos posted on it in order to do strikes on fake Facebooks. And so it was like beyond annoying. They just changed that, but it was beyond annoying. And so on that Facebook account, I was just posting all the videos that people had stolen and were blah, 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 blah. So I started up that Facebook account for that reason. And in less than a year, I'm now 125,000 followers on that. And it was just purely, it was just a platform that, again, I didn't start up because I wanted to be on Facebook. I started it up because I had to get rid of the fake accounts. But I started off with brands. I actually don't think I started off with like author or publisher collaborations. I started off mainly with brands. And the reason for that being is I was very hesitant to have my platforms turn into, I did not want to be an influencer. Like, it just, again, it wasn't why I started my platforms. It's not what I wanted to do. I had no interest in making any money off of it. It was something I truly started up because my therapist was like, hey, go talk to people, you know? Um, and so yeah, so I remember I was getting emailed a lot by brands who wanted to work with me, authors who wanted to pay me, publishers that wanted to work with me. And I just kept turning them down and saying, oh, like, thank you so much, but like, no thanks. Like if you want to send something, that's fine. I can't promise a timeline on when I'll read it, but you don't have to pay me, whatever. And at the time too, like in my life, I was really striving for like a good work and life balance. And which has gone out the window now, but that work and life balance for me, like I was working already so much that I didn't want in order to do paid collaborations and stuff, it would have taken time out of my off time, my free time, my reading time, or weekends. And I was not willing to compromise on my free time at that point. Like I really valued my I valued my, kicking my feet up at night and not thinking about work. But then I think it just got to a point where I remember it was my very first brand collaboration, and it was with a brand that I was like, you know what? I think I would actually really like to do this. And I wasn't sure what to charge. And I remember just talking with my husband about it because I was like, I really don't know if I want to like switch over into like making money off of this. I'm a very all in person, and that's something I know about my personality is like if I do something, I do it fully and all the way, and then there's like no breaks on it. And at the time, that was something I was working on in therapy, which is why I had a really good work and life balance at that time. And I remember being like, I don't know if I'm ready to go into something else where I'm not going to know when to put the brakes on. But I remember I did it, and I remember like when the check came in, I was like, "Oh, this is nice. This is a nice check." And I remember talking more about it with my husband, and right now, all of the money I make from social media, brand deals, collaborations, and everything, it's not money I touch. It actually goes into like a separate account, and it's a fast track for us to save up for a house. So my other job pays for all the bills and all of that and stuff. And then my content creation, it's just money that sits somewhere else, pays my taxes, and then the remaining will go to buying a house, which we are extremely lucky to be able to hopefully do this year. We've been wanting to buy a house for a long time, and content creation has really, really fast tracked the ability to be able to have a down payment, a down deposit, and all of that. But I think for me, there was definitely a lot of thought process behind it, like a lot of thought process. I just decided that for my content, like I didn't want to monetize on TikTok, like my platforms and my videos, because I still want my content to be like whatever I want to make it. I want my content to feel authentic and whatever. I don't want to have to create a video with the intentions of, okay, it needs to be 1 minute long and I need to make it about drama or something dramatic, for it to get in the algorithm and make a lot of money and all that. So like I just think I came to a decision where like I want to stay true to my content, be able to create the exact kind of content I want to make. And then whoever fits into that and wants to pay me, that's fine. Like if a brand comes along and that's, I've signed more NDAs in the past like year or two than I ever thought I would sign in my entire life. But like, there will be campaigns that come along that like you have to sign an NDA for before they send you the details and stuff. And then, like turning down like life-changing money, don't tell my husband, but turning down like insane money because it's something I don't feel like is authentic to my page, or it would be a video that would like really stick out, or not feel authentic to myself. I also think because I talk about romance books and I talk about spicy books and I talk about things like that, like I am not brand friendly for a lot of brands. And I think just coming to that decision of staying true to myself, and hey, if I'm not brand friendly enough for a brand, then that's okay. I'm still doing it with the mindset of like if there was no money coming in from it, I would still do it just for the love of it. And I think that's like a point I personally decided to get to, which is like even if I made no money from this at all, would I still do it? And the answer is yes. So about a year ago, that was kind of the decision factor in it, was like, I'm going to do it, but it's not going to be spending money. I'm very lucky that like I tell people all the time, like the books behind me would not be behind me if it was not for, publishers and authors and things like that. Like I don't think it's realistic to have like a bajillion books. So, and again, like I started my page having zero physical copies of books. I remember my first book mail, I cried. Um, so yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, but yeah.
It does. And it also, I think this shows again your authentic self, and you've really stayed true to that, which again is why I really do think your brand has flourished. Because you still stick by values and what you're offering and making sure that it is who you are as a person. And I think that's honestly, it's beautiful. Especially in this day. I sound so old. I keep saying in this day and age. But I would love to know if you have any like end notes just for those who may be starting on their journey or partway through it and they're feeling a little bit tired from it. Is there any last words you'd like to offer them in inspiration?
I feel like with social media, and it's probably different for authors and maybe it is for content creators. I don't know if there would be a difference between it, because maybe if as an author you're feeling really, I would say if you feel like it's taking more from you than you are getting back from it, like if it's something you really hate doing, it's probably not something to do, like, and that's like one thing I do sometimes tell creators, where it's like I don't think content creation is for everyone. I don't think it is for everyone. And again, I didn't even think it was for myself, to be honest with you, but I think just having fun with it, like truly just making it something fun. If it feels like a chore, re-strategize, like rethink all of it, you know? If it feels like a chore, throw in something silly and fun for yourself every once in a while, you know? Like I just did a video, I think it was like during the whole drama thing, and I was like dancing on, not dancing on a table, but I was like in my hoodie on a table and the table was like gonna fall over, you know? But I do think like throwing just fun things in there, and like the TikTok algorithm absolutely hated that video, you know? But I loved creating that video. So, and that's what counts, you know? Views are not the end all be all. I genuinely think it's just connecting with, I hate calling it followers, but like connecting with your community, your followers, and having fun with it and not burning out from it and allowing, I don't want to say take breaks, but I do think that by bulk filming and having videos either scheduled to automatically post or not forcing yourself to film every single day can really give yourself a break and allow you to feel re-energized. But then also to just keep going, I do think that like, I think if your goal is to just have friends and to post for fun, you don't care about views at all. You know, like when I started posting, didn't care about views. I just was creating cringy, silly videos just to be fun, you know? Um, but I do think if you do care about views, still remaining authentic to yourself and I don't want to say like your brand, but like who do you want to portray and like who do you want people to recognize you as? Um, and to just keep posting. Like I think again, if you're frustrated, I get asked a lot like, Miranda, I'm stuck in a 200 view jail, I've been posting for 2 years, like what's not working for me? And I think you can always tweak things, you know, like lighting can be tweaked, camera quality can be tweaked, things like that, but just having fun with it and portraying yourself. And I think we're at a point in social media where people want to feel more like your friend than they want to feel like they're being influenced. And I think that's where some content creators can go wrong, is that people don't want to feel like you're influencing them. They don't want to feel like every single video is like some form of influence. It's more like, okay, well, let's sit down and talk about books as me and you as a friend, you know? So, another thing, like just quickly too, is I think one of the most asked questions I get sometimes in my DMs is like how to feel comfortable talking in front of a camera. And my piece of advice is to imagine if it was a friend sitting across from you and not a camera, how would you explain that book to a friend, you know? And I do think that helps portray a little bit more of like, instead of like a deer caught in headlights look when you're talking to a camera, you know, feeling a little bit more personable if you're imagining talking to a friend about what you want to discuss. And maybe for like authors too, like how would you explain your book to a fellow author or a fellow friend, you know? Um, so yeah.
I think that's some great advice, and it actually reminds me too, whenever, for example, when I have my interviews here and what I'm trying to, gain for the channel and for those resources and inspiration, and that there is a very specific author friend that I think of. Actually, you know Penny D. She's the kindest, most sweetest person ever, but she loves learning. She loves
Yep.
listening to interviews, and she loves like seeing people's journeys. And that is also, it made me a lot more comfortable doing this, because then I was like, oh, this is for somebody like Penny, and it makes it a lot more personal, and you become a lot more comfortable with it as well. Does Penny watch all my videos? I certainly hope so, but I'm kidding. But it makes it a lot more easier as well. So I think that is fantastic advice. I'm so grateful that you made the time to come on. And again, there were so many good bits of information that you provided. So thank you for that insight and being vulnerable with us today. And I will definitely add all of your social medias down below as well. But definitely check Miranda out, guys. Like she's I wouldn't say it to her face, but she's rather funny. So she's great and I love her content. And highly.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on today, Kia. This was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. I'm a really bad bunny trailer, but it was really fun. And I just appreciate you having me on here today and listening to me yap for way too long, but I appreciate it.
We absolutely loved it. And yeah, stick around, guys. We will have somebody amazing on in 2 weeks again. Talk soon. Bye.